Good evening, everybody. I want to thank Bev and Lynette for we call it the pregame show, for warming everybody up. And I'm just sitting here for the last 5 minutes after meditating and talking to my team in spirit, and it certainly warms my heart to see all of you coming in to join us this evening. I just love these monthly get-togethers, the gatherings, and hopefully you will feel the love like we start feeling halfway through the day. I am not in my normal place. If you notice, I have a different background this evening. I am in Bethany Beach, Delaware, and I will explain why later. But I owe a big thank you to Ann Valentino, who found me this place with excellent internet, because we're here in our big RV, and I do not trust campground internet to do something as important as the monthly connection. So I put out a call through Facebook, believe it or not, in this day and age, just looking for somebody to help me out. And I had several takers, and I just love this community that never fails to find somebody anywhere in the country. In fact, at the end of tonight, I'm going to be putting out a call for 3 different places where I'll need to make some new friends as we travel this summer. But meanwhile, just want to welcome you and bring us all together. We always start with an invocation, because I know that every one of us has had busy days and our minds are usually racing. And it's just lovely to come together as a group and remind ourselves why we're gathered here this evening. So would you join me, please? Just close your eyes for a moment to get centered. Take a nice relaxing breath. This may be the best gift you've given yourself all day. Taking a nice slow breath. And exhale longer than you inhale, then feel yourself relax as you do that. All right, now let your awareness slip from behind your eyes down to the heart area, right there. This is the bridge between you and higher consciousness, a really great location to move your awareness. Your light is centered here. Turn up the rays as if you are your own individual sun, and just connect your light with everyone else gathered here, whether you're watching live or whether later, it doesn't matter. Together we create one field of love, of higher vibration. And as we bring our lights together like this, may each of us be uplifted by this brighter energy that we're about to spend 2 hours basking in. May each of us hear exactly what we need to hear as we enjoy this teaching tonight, this sharing and celebrating who we are and why it is and how it is that we are all connected and so very loved. With gratitude to those in spirit who are helping us this evening, we come together. All right, lovely. I feel better already. So how tonight will go, same as every month. I know we have many who are with me every month, and some of you are brand new here. I always start by sharing the latest evidence that's come through in my readings this past month, connecting people with their loved ones who have passed. The evidence being that information I couldn't possibly know about them. Some things, as you'll hear this evening, that my clients couldn't even validate at the time, but validated later. And what does that show us? That we don't die when the body dies, that love is eternal, and that it is possible to communicate with those who have passed. And not just for me, for any of you. And some of the things I'll share with you this evening will help you to do that. This is my goal, to teach all of you that anybody can connect with higher consciousness, your loved ones who have passed, your guides. My guides are always with me. There's my first goosebump of the evening, just to remind me we never do anything alone. Your guides are as close as your breath. And if I do nothing more this evening than to get you to see what it's like to live in constant communion with your guides and how helpful that can be, then I've fulfilled my goal this evening. I did promise you a big story about a little saga that Ty and I have just gone through, with a really shocking twist and turn in the middle and a very surprising twist and turn at the end. Yes, it's my personal story, but the lessons for how to live guided and how to flow are really big for all of us. I ran this by Bev and Lynette, and I said, look, I don't just want to talk about me. I hope that you guys see the lesson in this too. And they assured me that, yeah, we can always learn how to be more connected and follow the breadcrumbs. I'm going to show you how to connect dots this evening. But we will also do a group healing. We've done that the last 2 times, and it's very powerful. My guide Sanaya have come in at the end of that and channeled the message directly, and I find that very beneficial. So we'll do that also. So you ready to go? I will also stop every now and then and take questions from some of you. Bev will read the questions that are put in the question box. She knows which questions have already been answered on my frequently asked questions page on my website and what are new ones or not so frequently asked, and she'll pick those out as she's guided by her guides, and we'll answer several at a time as we go through the evening. So let's start now with the latest readings and the lessons for all of us. Not just the lessons, but it's about celebrating how very real, how very close the non-physical realms are. This is the week that my dear guide in spirit, Brenda, passed and came through to me in 2018. Yesterday was her angelversary, and she was immediately communicating with me. And just as I was getting ready here, for some reason, she's throwing confetti around. And I think it's just to let all of us know that she wants you all to know that we don't die. And the reason I brought her up just now is she's the one that taught me there is only here, because all that arises is experiences in consciousness, our very foundation. These bodies, these meat suits, as Brenda and Lynette call them, are very solid to us, but every reality is relative. So to those in the higher realms, we're not solid at all. We are all expressions of one mind, one consciousness. And that's what all these stories this evening point to. That's why your guides are right here and your loved ones who have passed are right here. So really what we're looking for when I do readings is, what do those in spirit want to tell us? What messages do your loved ones have for you? And the evidence that comes through validates this is really me. You can trust these messages when this medium gives it to you. That's what your loved ones are saying. So let me see. I did a reading that I'm not going to go into all the details, but what I loved so much was this really cool validation where a young man across the veil, I was talking to his mother, my client, showed me that she had honored him, honored his passing with something directly related to his passing that had an eagle in it. I looked very closely. He said to me, no, not a tattoo, but it has to do with celebrating my passing. And then he made a motion like this. He really made it clear that this eagle, you could see the talons. And I said that to Mom. What a thrill, goosebump time, when afterwards she sent me a photo of her son's gravestone, and etched on the gravestone was an eagle coming in for a landing with great big talons. Now, you know, most of us don't plan what goes on our gravestone before we pass, especially those who have children who we never expect them to pass before we do. And what does that tell us? He sees the gravestone. He loved it. Came in to tell that to Mom. So I love that. Let's see. I would love all of you who are working as mediums to pay attention to what comes out of your mouth when you're in the middle of a reading, the way it comes out. We usually have our own way of talking, but I've had several examples recently of knowing that the spirits wanted me to say things a certain way. An example of that, I was doing a reading, stopped for a moment to just talk with my client before I shifted back to the loved one in spirit. And I said, let me just anchor in his personality really clearly here. And then I got this little catch from her loved one in spirit. And he was like, pay attention to that word anchor. And I realized I don't usually say, let me anchor in the personality. And you just check, you tune in with your claircognizance, the knowing. And I knew that he put that anchor in thought in my mind because he was really into boats. And he was. She sent me, the client sent me a photo of him just loving being on a boat later. So that was pretty cool. I call these double meaning moments when spirits have economy of transmission and get two things in one little thing that they pass along. I shared this in the class I'm teaching online. If any of you are taking my current Shift Network class, you will have heard this one already. But I was connecting with a woman's mother across the veil. I correctly sensed from her that she passed of cancer. That's part of the evidential part. But the message then that followed was really what she wanted her daughter to know. She said that I'm completely free of all of that pain that my body was in. and I can see clearly now what you're up to. And I got this double meaning symbol in my mind's eye. You tune in to say, what is the double meaning? Well, the double meaning is, I can see you, my daughter. I can see you here in physical form. I'm right here with you. But just as I was about to say that song, I can see clearly now. I got those words out of my mouth, that song, and my client burst into tears. And she said, that was our song. That was our song. So just a beautiful moment for mom to get that through and show it's true. The cancer's all gone. I can still see you. And our favorite song brought it through as evidence. So that was beautiful. Let's see. Names sometimes can be a challenge for mediums. A lot of mediums think that that's really cool when you get names. I've learned that if they can get them through, those in spirit will, but we don't need to necessarily give them as much weight as we do. But it was really something when I brought through a client's father earlier this month, and he showed me his personality, and he showed me every once in a while he was really spontaneous and would just jump up and do something and surprise everyone by this way of being. And I said, your father's showing me he was like a jack in the box, and he's emphasizing jack. So I'm tuning into that, and he's telling me he's not exactly Jack, he's John. And he was. So explain to me, my guides, why it is that I don't get names all the time. And they just now said it's a frequency thing. And exactly what I said earlier, it's just not that important for spirits to spend the energy it takes sometimes to get an exact name through to a medium. But we do love when it happens. I had made a note earlier to share in teaching that those in spirit know when the client really wants to hear a name, but that it may not be a good frequency that somebody here could pick up, maybe a name that's hard to get through, that the medium might not be aware of. I've had some really unusual names lately. I didn't get them. My clients told me later. And I had made a note that sometimes they'll give the middle name if that's easier. And in that very reading where Jack in the box, John, showed up later on, the woman's ex-husband showed up and gave me his middle name. I just thought that was so funny because I had just made that note about that. Then the father came back in, John the father, and he says, as long as we're moving letters around, he said this from the spirit world, from Jack to John, talk about the Scrabble games. My client eyes lit up and she said, that is a big hit. Our entire family is into Scrabble, and we were always super competitive. So that's what I call one of those gold nuggets. I know my mom and I used to play Scrabble for hours. If a medium brought through my mom and Scrabble, I would know she's got Ruthie. So it's one of those things that's what we as mediums love, when you can pinpoint something super, super special. My clients had a son here in physical form still, and his father is across the veil, her ex-husband. And he showed me that he passed from a sudden event. He didn't come through specifically for apologies for her for being her ex. He had messages for his son, which was really beautiful. And his apology had to do with his passing. I didn't discern at all how he passed, but he said very clearly, tell them I should have known better. And she just shook her head and said, absolutely. And that's all she needed to know. That was the message. She understood it, and that's what's important. So let's see. He showed that he's still very much part of his son's life, because he showed his son skateboarding, which is an absolute favorite thing that his son does. And he said to her, my client, his son's mother, watch out. He wants a tattoo. And she said, oh my God, he's only 15. And I said, well, no wonder you need to watch out then. So it was just a beautiful connection. Then we moved back to Dad, and all of a sudden Dad saluted me with my Navy career. When those across the veil salute me, I know that they had military service. And he showed me that he absolutely did serve in the Army. It was very awesome to suddenly be with him. Going back in time, as I heard explosions, I knew that he had combat service, and I knew it was Vietnam. This is the goal for all of you when you connect to get to that place where you just know why you're sensing certain things. And she said, yes, that's exactly right. And he said, I did what was asked of me. I didn't want to go, but I went, and I'm darn proud of it. She said, oh my God, that's exactly what he used to tell everyone. So it was pretty cool. He showed me the flag that the family got. One could assume that most people with military service get a flag, but you never know, and that's what he showed me. So just all of you, when you tune in, trust what you're getting, report everything, be willing to be wrong, because when you're not wrong, it's a lovely memory for those who are still here. Now, he showed me that my client had a sister, this dad, and she said, well, actually, there are two of them, and they're going to be here in half an hour to visit. Now, can't you just see what's going to happen? The two sisters are going to come in. She's going to say, I just had a reading and the medium connected with dad. And they're going to want to know, what did he say about me? So first of all, I missed that there were two. I got only one. So I silently said to him, all right, you better tell me some things about both of them so nobody feels left out. And it was very cool. He first started with my client talking about her relationship with her husband and how he saw that and how supportive he was. She loved that. It was absolutely accurate. He then described the personality of his other two daughters. He said one is very headstrong, always had to have things her way. And the other one, all she ever wanted in her life was to be a mommy. And my client sat back and said, oh my God, that's all three of us. And this, of course, was followed with dad's message. He said, and I love you all equally. So a beautiful, beautiful message for all of them who were showing up in half an hour, which I just thought was pretty cool. Then he said to my client, say to her, how about that ring? Now, I hadn't seen my client's hands through the whole reading, and she held up a hand with the biggest diamond I think I've ever seen. I don't know how many carats it was, but he said it was passed down. And she said, yes, it was an heirloom in the family. And with three daughters, we didn't know who was going to get it. And I got it. And I said, well, don't you just love how your dad brought that through? How about that ring? So I love how personal this interaction is. Many people, when we start connecting across the veil, we think we're making it up. But notice how when you engage those across the veil, it becomes a conversation. It's no different than if they're sitting here in a physical body, because they are right here. All right. And then her mother, my client's maternal grandmother, her mother's mother, stepped in just before we were wrapping it up. She said, just tell my daughter, her mother, the client's mother, who's still here, that I see her too. And I said silently, then give me a current event so we can show her this is not just a nice wishful thinking message. And I said to my client, your grandmother says your mother just had to take some aspirin within the last 24 hours. You can validate that by asking your mother. And my client sat back and she said, I don't have to ask her. I gave her those aspirin. So that was very cool. A nice validation that even the most mundane things our loved ones in spirit see and are part of. So I'm going to move on now to a beautiful, beautiful reading I did this last month for a shining light parent. That's a parent who has a child across the veil. We don't like the term bereaved parents. We like to know that our kids across the veil who have passed are always our shining lights who keep us going. And as we come to know that they are still right here, our inner light turns brighter day by day as we realize we're moving forward with them, not without them. And we become shining lights. So beautiful Melissa is a shining light mom. She's joining us this evening. I'm not going to be bringing her on camera, but hi, Melissa. I just thank her so much for allowing me to share the evidence from her son, Kellen, who we connected with so beautifully up until yesterday. She was providing validations of things that she could not validate until she checked with others. Those for me are my favorites because they show even skeptics, the medium is not reading your client's mind. They're finding out things that you wouldn't find on Google, you wouldn't find on Facebook, and are not even in the conscious awareness of your client. The medium already knows the loved ones right here because we can feel them. We can get their personality, but it's those things that have to be validated later. Even when your client says, no, you trust the spirit. So I loved how Kellen burst into my awareness as I tuned in. I believe I knew Melissa had a son across the veil. I'm not quite sure, but right away I'm drawn to where I normally feel a child in spirit, which is over on my side here, a little to the left. And I said, my gosh, he's coming in with so much excitement. He's zipping around like a kid in a candy store. Now, I have never said that before in a reading. What did I tell you earlier about watch how things come out of your mouth? I'm going to share the screen now and share a bunch of pictures that Melissa so beautifully gave to us for this evening. Let me pull this up. Right down the street from Kellen's house was a candy store. So much so, how many of you have a picture of your child in a candy store? I know that's rare. And here's her son, Kellen. You can see that he has little oxygen or something. There may not be oxygen, but Kellen passed from a brain tumor. And he came back to tell his mom, I am still very much here, and he is doing great. But there he is in the candy store. His mom said that the timing of this reading could not have been more perfect. You all will love this. She had been on my waiting list for some time. And she said to her son in spirit, Kellen, why don't you tap Lynette on the shoulder? I really want a reading from you now. It was near a family birthday, a few days after her own birthday, after Melissa's birthday. You know that Lynette says she's not a medium, but she is totally tuned in, may not realize what's going on, but she got that tap on the shoulder and reached out to Melissa that very same day and scheduled the reading for a few days later. So I love how we're all connected, all part of one web. So after he showed me a kid in the candy store, I said, he's still showing me this excitement. And you know how you have a football team that just bursts onto the field and kind of bursts through a banner? Your son is showing me that right now, and you'll see why. Look, this is her son right here with the Seattle Seahawks. They honored him by letting him go on the field, and there's the whole team bursting onto the field. How awesome is that to have her son across the veil sharing that beautiful memory with all of us now. They made him honorary team captain that day. Really, really cool. I said, well, now he's showing me himself in a Superman shirt. And he's talking about, well, he's showing me an image of Mighty Mouse. I think I'm showing my age now because I don't know exactly how long it's been since Mighty Mouse has been on the air. But I said, he's also showing me himself in a white shirt and tie. It's a white collared shirt and a tie. Well, this next collage here shows there's Kellen with the Superman shirt. And let me see if I have the name of who this mouse is. Let's see. Who is this? It's not Mighty Mouse. It's just a mouse in a series that he really loved when he was in school. But look, he's in a white shirt and tie. So I thought that Kellen was in the white shirt and tie, but the juxtaposition of the things that he was showing me totally made sense to Mom. And again, that's what matters. 3 times, Kellen showed me an image of a snake, and I saw it winding around the left arm. I didn't want to wait at first. I didn't want to say anything at first because I thought, why are you showing me this? And he showed it to me again. I usually tell everybody, report everything right away. But if you're just not sure, you can ask them to bring it up again if it's important. Well, if you don't like snakes, don't look now. But check out this picture. There's her son in a very memorable moment when Melissa said somebody else had to take the picture because she ran screaming down the hall. when her son was handling the snake. But notice how it's wrapping around his left arm. What totally blew me away is that I rarely watch TV. I just don't have the time. And every once in a while, I watch old episodes of Grey's Anatomy. The very night I did the reading for Melissa and brought Kellen through, and he shared with me the snake, I watched an episode of Grey's Anatomy online. And in it, was a scene with a guy who had a giant snake wrapped around him and clomped onto his left arm. I think that's just an interesting God wink, but I couldn't help but notice the synchronicity there. One of the most beautiful moments here was, I don't think I had yet discerned how he passed, but he pointed at his eyes and he said, he told me that his parents had donated his eyes. This, for Melissa, was one of the greatest gold nuggets, because it's certainly not anything that anybody would normally think of. And I love that he said that he looks in on the person who received his eyes, and he says, it's okay, Mom, that you gave them away, because I don't need them anymore and I can see you just fine. Wow, absolutely beautiful. So then he showed me himself jumping on a trampoline. I mean, I've seen kids do that, but I don't know how many kids have a trampoline. Here he is, jumping on the trampoline. And the second child to come through, or at least a mention of skateboarding. And yes, absolutely, Kellen enjoyed skateboarding. He showed me that he liked to wear his cap backwards. She sent me a couple nice photos of him with his ball cap on backwards over the years. And he talked about camping trips with his dad or with the family. And there was one very memorable trip with Dad. This was the year before his diagnosis of the brain tumor. And so that's just a very special memory, and no wonder that he brought it up. Let's see. I'm going to go back just one there. That one just makes me smile. In the reading, he talked about a friend or someone that he knew who had drawn a picture of him, and that Mom would recognize that drawing. And yes, absolutely, she did. She had it. And he talked about a very special friend, a girlfriend, but not a girlfriend, a female friend. And at one point he said he had a secret decoder ring. That has never come up in thousands of readings that I've done. And this is the case where Mom said, no, I don't know about that. So I checked with Kellen. Absolutely, check around. I know he had a secret decoder ring. Well, it was just this last week. Mom put the pieces of the puzzle together. The girl who was a friend who did the drawing, she reached out to her and said, would you know anything about a secret decoder ring? And the girl said, oh my God, do I? We got it when he and I went to a science museum together. Mom said, what makes it a decoder ring? She said, literally, you can turn it and line up the letters and the numbers on it to make codes. And she said, can you get a picture of it? Because I want to send it to Suzanne. And the friend said, I'm away at college now, but I can tell my mom where it is. And she knew exactly where it is, friends, because it was hanging on a chain with other special mementos of her friend Kellen. How awesome is that? This is the decoder ring, the exact one. He knew all about it, and acknowledging his friend and her kindness. Isn't that beautiful? My gosh. Melissa, we love you and thank you for sharing this with us. We're just celebrating with you. Let's see. My final slide from Kellen was another one of trusting. We were just getting to wrap up, and I said, he's showing me a chicken and it's clucking and he's flapping wings and he's laughing. This is where you don't just stop when you get a little bit of evidence. You dig a little deeper. Kellen, why are you showing me this? And I said, you know, Melissa, it has something to do with a sports team with chickens. It sounds ridiculous, doesn't it? And his mother said, I'm not sure. But she said, it sounds familiar. I'm going to have to check on that. Well, Melissa really enjoyed playing detective this past month because she found an old email from the time period when she thought he might have been on this little team. She checked with the coach. It's from an ultimate Frisbee team. Here they are. Kellen's in the photo. Guess what they called themselves? The Chicken Warriors. So it's just one of those nobody can make this up moments. Mom didn't even remember it, but Kellen just wanted her to know that he's right here. Think of all these happy memories. I'm still with you, and I see you just fine, even without my physical eyes, that somebody else is blessed with vision, thanks to him. How beautiful. Oh my goodness. We even got a few other loved ones. Her dad came through, showed me he'd been in the Army. She didn't remember that. And I said, trust me, he tells me he was, and he had been in the Army Reserve for a short period of time. So it was a beautiful time of trusting. I remember leaving the reading thinking, I hope she knows he was here. I could feel him so clearly, but she had to validate several things, but the validations came in later. It was funny, as I was typing up these notes to share with all of you, a song came on the radio, and I know many of you will know this. It's all about faith. It's all about trust. And that's what's true when we communicate with spirit, and we may not necessarily see them, but we trust what we sense. And as I typed, it's all about faith, it's all about trust, and I'm typing all these notes from Kellen. All of a sudden, this little bird flew up to my window, stayed there, and stared at me so long that I was able to take multiple pictures of him. And I said, Kellen, are you sending this bird with remote control to look in on us? And it really came with that sense. So I'll trust that. Pretty cool stuff. All right. So Melissa, we celebrate with you. Thank you again. And all you other shining light parents out there, I know we just went through Mother's Day, and that can be a tough one. But if anything, I hope that all of these beautiful signs and messages and evidence help you to know that your shining lights, we're still celebrating with you and honoring you on that day. Let's do a couple questions before we move on, Bev.
Okay. Looking down the list, this is anonymous. We've heard that people who live challenging lives, when they cross the veil, they need time to recuperate and rest. But if all is always perfect with our soul, why would we need recovery time on the other side?
It's such a great question. I'm going to ask my guides to blend in with me as I answer this. You are as much a soul and your story, the role you're playing right now, as you are when you cross the veil. The body and all of this material world keep our focus on external things instead of the presence of the soul that is right here, that can't be anywhere but here. So what happens when we cross the veil is it depends on how strongly we continue to identify with the story, with the role. The external environment is so different when we cross the veil that we hopefully turn more inward and realize, oh my goodness, it's a role I've been playing. I am this soul. The love that we're greeted with and surrounded by when we cross is so grand, they tell us, that you can't help but notice this is a different reality. But some souls playing the roles continue to identify with the role until they just kind of learn to set that aside more. The goal for us here is to set aside the all-consuming identification with the story you're playing right now, the role you're acting out. Doesn't mean you don't still know you're playing a role, but when you acknowledge I am a soul and the role right now, everything changes. That's what this is all about, to realize you don't become a soul when you cross. You are this beautiful light right now. I acknowledge I'm playing the role of Suzanne. What role are you playing? How's it going for you? If it's not as joyful as you'd like, and surely even everybody has those downs and the ups, just realizing there is a greater aspect of you with help that's here from the greater realms all the time makes all the difference in the world. That is living the awakened way. That's my mission, to get you to find and identify primarily with yourself as the soul who's playing a role and not with just the role. That's when we suffer. We'll just answer that one for now, Bev, because that was just clearly a huge point that we'll leave with everybody. So teaching my online class with the Shift Network, 2 weeks ago, a student asked a question near the end of the class that really kind of knocked me off balance a little. They asked, what do you do if your client is intoxicated or under the influence of some mind-altering substance or has really low energy? And I thought to myself, I can't even imagine that. I mean, a reading is a very special thing. I would hope that people would always come in a nice, sober state, but that doesn't mean it couldn't happen. So I just told them that if it's really bad, you might want to call off the reading and postpone it. Do no harm ever to your clients. Be very tactful. But if you can go on, you turn up the love, you maintain a harmonious state, and you do the best you can to provide messages and evidence. It's all about the healing. Well, talk about a setup, getting that question. The very next morning, after that question came up in class, 9 a.m., I go to do a reading, and my client came on the screen, and I have full permission to share this. And he was very down. And he told me right off the bat, I want to hear from my brother who passed. I believe his mother is the one who was on my waiting list, but she gave the reading to her son. She could have come in, but I guess she wanted him to have that experience himself. But Lynette made sure that he was open to mediumship, because we really need to be open-minded. He said he was, but he spent an awful lot of the time with his head in his hands and at times sobbing. And I could feel his brother clear as day. The connection was so clear. There was no way I was going to postpone the reading. I just thought, well, he's very depressed over his brother's passing. Well, about halfway through the reading, I reported to my client, John, your brother Matt just showed me my symbol for drinking too much alcohol. And then he just pointed at you and he showed me, set the bottle aside. There's no reason to turn to alcohol because of my passing. You should have seen John's reaction. I'll imitate it for you here. His eyes got big. He looked to the side. He went just like that. It was like, I've been called out. How does my brother know this? And it was true. I remember after the reading was over thinking, could he have actually been drinking at 9 in the morning? And in fact, he had been. The day after the question came up. But it did not affect the connection with his brother at all. In fact, it allowed his brother to tell him exactly what he needed to hear. And boy, did his brother come through with messages from the other side. He had taken his own life. And he talked about angry words that were said from my client before he passed, and that he needed to get over it because he understood where those angry words came from. This is the value of messages that come from the other side. They know what you need to heal. They're doing their best to get those through to you in dreams, through signs. But if you get a medium who can sense those messages, boy, is that healing. And it turns out that John and Matt had angry words before he passed. And that was the last conversation that John had with his brother. So he was really, really suffering. Let's see what else happened there. His mother provided so much validation. John shared the recording of the session with his mom, and she actually went through and annotated everything that came through. 98 pieces of evidence and messages, only 5 of which she couldn't identify. She just didn't know, but 93 of them, she said, were so accurate. Several times she said, were you living with us? Were you in your house? Are you sure you didn't know my son? Because his personality was just so clear. He had a message for his mom. I said, John, your brother wants you to deliver this to his mom. He's apologizing for not being able to accept her hugs. He's showing me that when mom would hug him, he'd kind of pull back and just do one of those things. And mom said she could feel it every time she'd go to give him love. He would pull back, and that's exactly what he did, because he was afraid if he loved too much or felt too much love, he would want to stay here longer. I want to pass along something his mother said that was stunning. She said her son from 2 years old said to her, Mommy, I just want to go home. I miss Jesus and the angels. Where does a 2-year-old get that from? Memories, memories. But he was very much here. He told me there was an important date in July. And then he talked about July 4th and showed me barbecues in the backyard and fireworks. So many Americans have that, but when they make a point of talking about it, you know that's important. I said he wants to talk about happy memories with the family. And she said, Suzanne, he was so troubled his whole life, there weren't a whole lot of happy memories. But July 4th, every year was so special to our family. We loved the fireworks. We would go out and get fireworks and do the whole barbecue thing. And the special date in July was he passed at the end of July. So what a connection we enjoyed together. I said to John, he's showing me you guys were so close. It was like you had a Vulcan mind meld. That's another one of those examples of when something comes out of your mouth you wouldn't normally say. I wouldn't normally say that. Turns out they were huge Star Trek fans. So just building the evidence right in there. I love that Mom knew that she had given the reading to her son instead of taking it herself. And she said, Matt, I would really love if you could give me a gift. Maybe just talk about, and she thought for a minute, she didn't tell me, she didn't even tell her brother this. And she looked up at this photo she had just looked at, and there was this rebel flag, the Southern flag. For those of you who aren't in the US, a special flag in the US that many Southerners would recognize. We call it the rebel flag on the wall. Well, in the middle of the reading, I said, John, your brother's showing me a flag on the wall. I'm looking, and it's not the US flag. I believe this is a rebel flag. And John just said, yeah, that's important to our family. He said it kind of sad. He had no idea the gift his brother had just given his mother. It was a beautiful moment, especially when validated later. So again, many things validated. When the reading was over, I usually just end and thank the spirits, but it was so clear that we needed to give some teaching to John to understand that he could choose to not focus on the sad times. He could choose to focus on the fact that his brother sees him and knows he wants to get better, that he could move forward and honor his brother's memory by not wallowing in the grief. We talked about how it's possible that his brother was talking to him because he still exists in consciousness. And he says, I know, I feel him all the time. I know he's here. This is good advice. I'm going to listen. When his mom sent me the transcript 2 days later, I actually cried. It was so touching how important those messages were. I had no idea at the time because John wasn't giving me feedback. Literally, he was crying and just kind of nodding his head. His mother said, the reading was on Thursday. She sent it to me Saturday, and she said, it's the first time he hasn't had a drink since the reading. So may all of you come to know how close your loved ones are. May those of you who are working as mediums set the bar as high as you possibly can. We never know how good it can get, and it just keeps getting better. Never stop working to get more clear. I don't ever stop working. I'm very content, but rarely satisfied because I just love the healing potential of this. That week that I did John's reading and brought his brother Matt through, Matt had taken his own life. I had 6 readings in a row with sons across the veil who came through. It was like a setup from spirit. 3 of them had taken their own lives. I had recently asked spirit for a good charity to donate to. I love to do sessions where I channel Sanaya, special channeling for charity sessions. And I said, what's a good charity? And it was so clear that week, suicide awareness and prevention. So I got together with Bev and my other assistants. Donna helped, Valerie helped, Lynette, I'm sure, helped in some way with this. Put online that we're going to do a special channeling for charity session at the end of this month, Sunday, May 29th at 2 o'clock Eastern time. I'll do an extended session of channeling Sanaya. I'm sure they'll talk about suicide, but many other things. Much longer than we're going to hear from them tonight. And it's for the contribution of your choice. We have already earned almost $10,000 for suicide awareness and prevention, but I want to triple that by the 29th, and I hope you'll help. I hope you'll help. Okay. How about a few Q&As and then a couple more things, and I'll get into that big story I promised you.
Okay. Sharon asks, when there is a mass tragedy, such as an airplane accident, do all of the souls see each other as they are leaving their bodies and rising or going to the other side?
Bev, you did a good job of picking one nobody has ever asked before. I have read about this in channeled works and works from other mediums, and I can answer myself, but my guides are absolutely backing me up as I say absolutely. They're all together. We see this in soldiers who are on the battlefield, and they look around and they're with their buddies on the battlefield, but now across the veil. And so, yes, they initially see each other, they realize what's going on, and I'm hearing from the guides, it's like a clearinghouse. It's like, welcome, here you are, now let's match you up with your loved ones. So nice.
Wow. Thank you. Ken asks, how are successive loving marriages sorted out in heaven, assuming that both spouses have passed? Are they jealous of each other, or is that silly?
What a great question. So I have to ask the guides this one because I've never heard it and I don't know the answer. So the guides say, you were just talking about souls. Most are immediately aware that they have been playing roles, and you all recognize yourselves as souls. And as such, there is no ownership, there's no jealousy, there is simply the merging of love. Totally different kinds of relationships. They're saying that if you'd like to take on the role for a little while and perhaps live in that little house that you never got to, you would do that. And oh, wow. Brenda said, didn't I tell you I can be in 3 places at once? You could actually be visiting with different spouses at the same time. Interesting. It's just totally different rule set across the veil.
Okay.
And I don't mean rules as in marital laws, the way consciousness operates kind of rules, like you can actually be aware of being in 2 experiences at once. Okay.
Okay.
All right.
Thank you.
One more.
Raman asks, would you please explain the difference between channeling and mediumship?
Absolutely. Channeling is a form of mediumship. The mediumship we're mostly talking about this evening is when a medium sits with someone else and connects with their loved ones across the veil. The medium is the person in the middle, the intermediary, reporting what they sense and see and hear and know. Channeling is when there's such a good blending with those across the veil that the medium no longer is the middle person, but those across the veil speak directly to the loved one here. So that's in the middle of a reading. You'll see that kind of channeling when it's just straight through. Today I did a reading and I asked my client, what's your intention to hear from loved ones? And she said, I really just have a bunch of questions about this medical challenge I've been dealing with, why I've had it, how I can recover from it. And I said, so let's just ask for the greatest and highest good for you. And the entire session was channeling from her guides and mine. I just occasionally would come back and say, this is making sense to you, isn't it? She just kept saying, it's amazing. It's exactly what I need to hear. I haven't felt this full in so long, this free, this childlike. It was such a gift, so beautiful. That was channeling, and yet still connecting across the veil, but the kind of translator mode goes away. And then there's channeling that I do with Sanaya when it's not with loved ones of the client, it's literally my guides or someone else's guides. So there you go. All right. Thank you, Bev. Thank you, everybody, for the questions. So speaking of guides, I talk to mine every day. I hope all of you will get in the habit of doing that. If you don't already, they are your greatest friends. They're always here. You can have deep, involved conversations with them in meditation, in expanded states of awareness, or you can just learn to connect with them on the fly, anytime, anywhere. Help me with this question that I have. And they love when you ask. Most times you have to ask. The answers are immediate. I love when I'm driving somewhere And I get a little nervous. Am I going to be late? Am I going to be late? And I'll check in and they'll tell me every time, relax. You will be 2 minutes early. You will be 2 minutes late. You'll be right on time. It's stunning. Where were we? Oh, traveling to where I am now. You're going to love this. We brought our big RV and it is big. And we went through the Chesapeake Bay Bridge Tunnel. It's a super long tunnel or bridge with 2 tunnels. And we were told that it'll set off an alarm before you get to the toll gate if your vehicle is too high. We were told you can't be more than 13 feet 6 inches high. We were 13 feet 4 inches high. I had so much twisting in my gut as we approached that tunnel. I knew it was my human side, so I stopped and I tuned into my guides. I'm sharing this with you so you learn to do this. And I said, Ty, the guides are saying we're going to be fine. We're going to be fine. He said, I know we're going to be fine or I wouldn't be doing this. And I was so surprised how calm Ty was. Usually it's the other way around. And so I was unable to untwist my gut, but I trusted the guides completely. And down we went in the tunnel. Let me tell you guys, that roof was really close, but we made it through. But you can learn to tune into your guides for mundane things like that or anything, because they're always here. So anyway, on April 25th in meditation, I went into a very deep expanded state and had the most amazing experience of oneness. Many times I have conversations with God, like Neil Donald Walsh talked about, but Source says, call me Joy. So I call them conversations with Joy. And Joy speaks as I, and I speak as me, and it's you and me having conversations that I write down. But on this one day, it was just one. It was just, there was no I, there was no me, there was you. It was just information flowing. And at the end, when I came out of that state and went back into the dual nature of playing this role, knowing I'm a soul and an expression of Source, all of you are, I said, I set the intention for a daily message today. That's how I get the daily way messages from my guides. And I said, and of course it will be a good one, but we set the intention for some evidence with it. In other words, let's get something magical today so that whatever message comes through, there's some validation that this didn't just come from Suzanne's mind, the limited mind of the role. So I'm going to bring up a slide of the message. Some of you may remember this one when it came through. Okay, share screen. Got to go back here. Give me a sec. We're going to go back to Kellen for a second so I can bring up the right slide. Here it is. This is what I want. This was from April 25th. And I'll read it to you. The devil made me do it. Making a deal with the devil. Now, when I got to this point, writing down what I'm hearing, I remembered hearing my own thoughts. I try not to interrupt when Sanaya gives me messages, but I thought, really? You're going to talk about the devil? People don't like when you talk about the devil. People get freaked out by that, but I've learned to trust. And the message went on, what is this thing called the devil? It is not a person. It is a name given to that which is far out of alignment with goodness and light, your true nature. Humans have made this concept into a person, just as they have with God. It is a worthy concept to bring attention to the fact that one can get out of alignment with love, total connection, but not useful when it causes one to go to a place of fear. The devil's in the details. Notice which details hold you in fear and which bring in the light. No thing can harm the light that is your very essence. Make a deal with the light that you will fulfill your purpose in a body and shine, shine, shine. Where you place your focus determines your peace. You are so very loved. This is a message, come out of this for a sec, that they repeat so often, but not using the analogy of some being that has power over us, a fearful being that we would call the devil. The message is be present, be aligned with total connection with love, and watch how your life flows. But when the details of everyday life, the ups and downs, the part of the story that drag you down, get in the way, then it is like being in some kind of an arrangement with some kind of a devil. So it was a very useful message, but remember how I'd asked for some kind of evidence. What happened was only about an hour later. This April 25th message was a Monday morning. In the community where I live, there are 2 golf courses, and every Monday they close one of them and you're allowed to ride your bicycle on the golf cart paths, and it's really fun and beautiful and curvy. But I never know which one's closed from week to week. And I usually just go out and look and see if somebody's on the golf course near me. And if they are, then it's the other one that's open. But for some reason, and every time there's some reason, you know, there's a higher reason, I thought, well, maybe I can look it up on the community website. So I went to the website and I tried to log into the members only section, and I didn't have my password because I just never go there. So I thought, well, maybe I can call the golf clubhouse. I don't play golf. I don't have time for golf. So I don't play golf. So I thought, well, I'll go to the golf page on the website. Now, clearly, I don't play golf. I haven't been to the golf webpage. I'm going to bring something up here. Let me go back to where we were. Let me see if we're here. Okay, here we go. So you remember this one. I literally gasped out loud when I opened up the golf course webpage 1 hour after receiving this message. Look at the message. It's 10:58 a.m. Oops, the devil's in the details. Wait a minute. Look at this, right? Don't I have it here? It's the next page, right? Hang on a second. Oh, yeah, I should have circled it here, but do you see what's right in my face right here? The devil's in the details. How does that happen? It's because we are always, always guided. I just thought that was the most magical thing, and it made me laugh. Here I was worried that some people might get freaked out that we're talking about the devil, but really, it's all a message to all of us to pay attention to how much we're getting sucked in by the details of this physical life, when if we would give that much attention to the inner guidance that is always present with us, if we would give attention to sitting for 3 minutes a day to just be silent and notice what arises, what details arise in consciousness, then you'd come to know the only thing to fear is the story and how it gets us caught up in itself and identifying with something that is temporary, instead of coming to know the part of you that is eternal, the soul and source. Pretty cool stuff. I love it. So how about just a couple more questions, then I'll get on to my long story, the stunning story.
Okay. A question from Susan. She references an uncle who was killed in the war, and her mom always worried, you know, was he shot but did not die immediately? Do souls leave their physical body before their body's final breath so that they don't suffer, is her question.
Absolutely. There is so much evidence that I've gotten from across the veil. When I see somebody who passed at the scene, they show me this out of the body before the suffering happened. I see this when there are fires, when people are in a fire, car accidents, when they go through a window. It could go into so many details, but we don't need that. Just so much awareness that they're not suffering. Go on my website. Lynette, maybe you'll remember the name of this wonderful video with the rattlesnake story of a man who was in hospice, who was, he said, it may look like my body is suffering, but I'm okay. His soul was talking to me and he had not even passed yet. We'll get that later. What is it? I can't remember the name of it. We'll put it on the video when we put it up. We'll put the name of the video. But as for somebody who may pass just shortly thereafter, even then, I've heard from so many who've had near-death experiences that it's like a split awareness. They were watching what was happening. So don't have any fears about that. Okay,
Thank you.
how about another?
Jennifer asks, when humans cross over, how does their understanding change of different religious views? Are all of our questions answered, or do we still have more to learn?
Oh gosh, double question. Brenda told us 2 days after she passed, she still had much to learn. She said, I'm not God yet. Word for word, those were what she told us, that she would continue learning. And isn't that what life is all about, right? But as far as religion, I can't tell you how many times those across the veil will show me that their religion, their faith was a foundational bedrock in their life. That's evidential in itself, because for some people it is, for other people it isn't. But those that were, they show me this. And then almost to a person, every one of them gives me this symbol. And when I see that, they're telling me, my eyes have been opened to say it's so much more than what just one religion could contain. And yet every religion has truth within it, just that we limit ourselves by thinking that one religion has the answer. So those across the veil, many of them still stay with those familiar beings. Many will say, I'm with Jesus, I'm with the Lord, it's beautiful, I was met by Mother Mary. Others will show me from other religions that they're enjoying the practices still, but that's because it goes with the role, and they're still enjoying the role, and yet they realize there's so much more. So it's lovely that we still have choice, even across the veil, but with greater awareness. How about one more, Beth?
Okay. Judy asked a question, can we connect with someone we've never met on the earth once we cross to the other side? And her example is a brother who had Down syndrome, and he was put into a home, and she never got to meet him. Can she meet him on the other side?
Oh, there was instant recognition, instant, because you already and always know each other as souls. So it doesn't matter what role you played here, even while you're here, you know each other and your souls are celebrating together. This is one of the greatest ways to start seeing each other, is see the soul just reaching out and hugging each other, no matter what's going on here. We are both. This is one of the biggest messages I'll repeat and repeat and repeat. You know each other at the soul level now. I was talking to Ty's soul this morning as we couldn't come to agreement on something. And I was just thinking, I'm not going to give power to these roles where both of us think differently. I'm just going to see him soul to soul. And I maintained peace throughout the whole morning. Wow. Wow, is that helpful? And I hope you'll learn to do that too. So thank you for those questions.
Thank you.
So now, Susan, my stepdaughter who passed in June 2006, what a gift she sent us. And what a story comes with it. And this is why I'm going to share this long story with you, because it's just full of magical moments and teaching points for all of us. So I know we've all been through moments where we get our hearts set on something and then we have disappointment. This is an example of noticing the signs from across the veil, noticing how our loved ones are trying to help us manifest our dreams. They know what we want. And an example of connecting the dots when our loved ones send us signs and gifts. So notice how this works as I share this story, and trusting when things aren't going as you think they should be, even when the signs are there. Are you ready? Okay. So Susan was a sergeant in the Marine Corps. Most of you probably know my story, but she was struck by lightning in 2006, crossing the flight line at Marine Corps Air Station, Cherry Point, North Carolina. She took her last breath on that base. They worked on her for 7 hours and could not save her or her unborn child, Liam. 6 months pregnant she was. So we got the news about this happening. Ty and I did, it's his daughter, Susan, while we were sailing our sailboat off the coast of Croatia. Ty and I are both retired Navy officers. He calls me a short timer. I served for 20 years. He served for 26 years. He's a ship's captain. He spent 14 of those 26 years at sea on 7 different ships. That man is more at home on the sea than he is on land. I had to retire from the Navy to go to sea because women weren't allowed on ships when I first came in the Navy. So I got my captain's license when we decided we were going to go sailing off into the sunset on our boat and live a dream of the cruising on a sailboat lifestyle. I got my captain's license so that my captain could sleep when I was on watch. And so we're both pretty accomplished sailors. We love sailing, sailed across the Atlantic Ocean. And it was then when we were in the Mediterranean off the coast of Croatia, we got the news about Susan's death. It literally took the wind out of our sails. We left the boat in Turkey, came back here. Ty went back to work. We literally had the boat shipped back on a ship when we realized we were not going to continue that dream. Susan's death devastated us. So I may be a shining light parent now, filled with joy, but it's because I know Susan is still here. But at the time, there wasn't that great joy, of course. I didn't know there was a greater reality. I didn't know there was an afterlife. But it was through my meditative practice and everything that I've shared in my documentary and the Messages of Hope book that opened me up to this greater reality that it is now my greatest joy to share with all of you. And as you can imagine, it completely changed my life. We got the boat back here on the East Coast. We did not have a house. We had sold our house and cars to go sailing. We didn't have a whole lot of money. We still had the boat. And I opened up to the spirit world. I started getting daily messages. We decided to move ashore and we got a house, but we hung on to the boat. And then this diving into the afterlife, once I discovered I could connect with other people's loved ones across the veil, I could bring them healing like a medium brought our family healing. It became my life, this path. It became my obsession. It remains so. I don't like to call it an obsession. I call it a burning desire, but Ty says it's an obsession. But the hardest thing ever was to tell my husband, I just can't do the boating thing anymore. This is my calling. I am supposed to do this. I knew that Susan's passing was the catalyst, that it was all part of some plan, and we were going to honor her and show all of you that death is not the end. To tell my ship captain husband who loved sailing, I could not do the boating thing anymore. I think if we didn't have as strong a marriage as we had, it would have been divorce. The pain on his face was horrible. For me to push him to that point was the worst thing I ever had to do. I'm prefacing this story with this so you understand why what I'm about to tell you is a big deal. It was really hard to sell the boat. So we sold the boat and we moved to Central Florida, where we lived for 11 years. The first time in Ty's entire life, he lived more than 12 miles from the ocean. And suddenly we're 2 hours from the big water. For 11 years, that man gave it up for me to do this work. So we decided 3 years ago, let's move back near the water. I think we can get a boat and just play around on a boat. I didn't want to go cruising again. And so we moved to South Carolina and we started looking at boats. We actually got a big boat, but when you get a boat, you have it inspected by a marine surveyor. Ty is really particular about boats. And some of you may remember the time that Ty almost died from a small surgery that went awry. He ended up in the hospital for days, right when the big boat we were buying was being surveyed. They went ahead with the survey. We got that boat and never bonded with it because the surveyor missed several big problems with it that never would have happened if Ty had been there. And his recovery took so long, we just decided, let's sell the boat. So we were gun shy 3 years ago about getting that boat after all. So maybe in the last year, we started thinking maybe we give up sailing and get a little motorboat, a power boat, maybe like a little tugboat, something that we're not going to go cruising on. They make these pleasure tugboats. They're really cute, and I thought it would be great for Captain Ty to have this tugboat. Come to find out, all our friends said, that's not you guys. You know, it's a cute boat, Suzanne, but it's not you guys. But we actually had a deposit on this little tugboat, and we went aboard some friends' sailboat, this 51-foot sailboat near here, near South Carolina, where we live. And we looked at each other and we said, oh my God, we are not little tugboat people. Do you remember how awesome it was to sail? Let's get a sailboat. Let's try the sailboat thing again. Okay, so we started looking at the kind of boat that these friends had. The brand is called the Jeanneau. And we identified this really nice sailboat. It's called the Jeanneau 44, 44-foot boat. The boat we crossed the Atlantic in was 46 feet. And I just kept thinking, though, back to 2009, I had a reading with one of my original mediumship mentors, Janet Nohavik. She brought Susan through so clearly. She said, your daughter's talking about you guys sailing. She says you're going to get another boat. And I said, well, I'm sure someday we probably will. And she said, your stepdaughter says it's going to be bigger than the boat you gave up. And I said, I can't imagine that. Our boat's 46 feet. Well, as I just told you, we got a 49-footer, but we ended up sailing it right away because of Ty's illness. I thought that was the bigger boat, right? The one that Susan talked about. So clearly the little tugboat wasn't going to cut it. But once we identified this Jeanneau, our friend's 51-footer, we said, that is too much boat for us. We didn't care what Susan had said. 51 feet is too big. And we're not going cruising. It's just going to be for around the waters in South Carolina. So we identified this Jeanneau 44. We looked at a few. The market for boats, by the way, is just like the housing market in the US right now. The second one comes available, they're gone. People are just buying them up. I don't know what it is with boats, but we would call, we'd find a Jeanneau 44, it's gone. Well, we identified two. One was way up north in Newport, Rhode Island. One was the west coast of Florida. Both of those, if we got them, would take us a good 2 weeks to sail to our home port. That's hard to work into the schedule. Both of them were a little older. They would have been a compromise because it didn't have the right layout, just things that they were okay, but we couldn't get excited. And suddenly I heard from my guides, check the listings again. So I'm hearing from the guides, right? So I checked the listings and there's a Jeanneau 44. Where did that come from? It had just appeared. And right when I looked, I couldn't believe it. So I'm listening to the guides, follow, listen, when you get a nudge like that, you act on it. There's a lesson for you. Don't wait, especially something like this where it could disappear right away. So I called and it was available. We got so excited. Not only was it available, there were no compromises. It was the layout we wanted, the colors we wanted. And are you ready for this? It wasn't way up in Newport or west coast of Florida. Unbelievably, it was 1 hour away from where we live in South Carolina. 1 hour by car, which is 3 or 4 hours by boat, but that's okay. One day it would take to get this boat home. We made an offer immediately, sight unseen. We were so excited. Oh my God, can you believe this? So we went to see the boat. We went aboard it. Oh my God, it was perfect, perfect boat. So the owners were there to show us the boat. She said, let's take a picture of you, Suzanne, at the wheel. Now the boat it's called On the Hard. It was out of the water. It was up in a cradle. So I'm going to show you a picture that I suddenly knew this was meant to be. Let me bring you up here. Go back here. The devil's in the details, right? Let's see if we can get it here. Okay. Look at this picture of me at the helm of this boat in the boatyard. Do you see the shafts of light? 2 shafts of light coming down with rainbows in them. To me, it was like Susan saying, this is your boat, Suzanne. Now, some people might say that's a reflection, but there was nothing up there to reflect upon. And what was really cool was the name of this boat. Usually when you buy a used boat, you have to rename it because people give boats silly names that have no meaning to you, and you change it and you have to repaint the bottom of the back of the boat where the name is. This boat, the name was unbelievable. A sign from Susan. So I have to back up and tell you why. Of course, the worst day of our life was Susan's funeral. When I looked at her body at the viewing, that was my life-changing moment. When I looked and I said, that's not Susan. That's just the vessel. Susan has to still be here. I'm going to find her and I'm going to take Ty to a medium. But how am I going to convince him that she still exists? Well, it had been a perfectly still day. We're in the funeral, in the memorial service, this big auditorium filled with Marines. We walked out of the chapel and suddenly the wind stirred up out of nowhere in this circular motion, and all these leaves were dancing in a big circle as the wind whipped them around. And Ty looked up and he said, that's Susan. And it was that moment when I knew I would be able to get him to go with me to a medium, and he's been on board ever since. So the wind dancing, and the week I took him to a medium, I discovered a song by Josh Groban called And She Dances. And She Dances. That song would come on the radio and I kept hitting replay, replay, replay. I had it on a DVD, right? Over and over, obsessively. And I didn't know why. And when we went to that medium at the end of the week, the medium said, well, there's a young woman who just stepped in and she's standing in front of you, Suzanne, and she's dancing and dancing in front of you. And I knew it had been Susan that brought that song to me over and over again. 10 years after Susan passed, on her angelversary, the day of her 10th anniversary of her passing, I was speaking at a conference. I carried my laptop down to the stage, about to go on stage. My laptop was in its case. I was a little despondent because I said, Susan, where are you today? I haven't heard from you all day, and this is a special day. Suddenly, I heard music. It was coming from my closed computer inside the case. It was playing Josh Groban's And She Dances. My friends, there is no other explanation than that Susan was pulling some strings there. So all that background is to tell you the name of this Jeanneau 44 with the shaft of light coming down that was the perfect boat 1 hour away is Wind Dancer. There was no way we were going to change the name of that boat, right? Okay, so we had to line up a survey, and you know Ty was going to be at this boat survey this time. There was no way he was going to miss it. And the boat was perfect. It was so lightly used. Amazing. It was a 2019, but the owner had only taken it out 3 or 4 times and then met a woman, and you know the rest of that story, right? So we were really excited because we didn't have to pay full price. We could afford this boat and lightly used. So to line up a survey is complicated. You got to get the surveyor there, you have to get the broker there, the owner there, and you have to get the yard to haul the boat out and put it in the water so you can test it in the water. So all these pieces of the puzzle and our schedule all have to come together. It took us 10 days till we could line up a date. 10 days is a long time to wait when you're looking forward to something. So we lined it up for the day I was due to come back from leading a workshop in Sedona in March. Okay, I'm all excited. Oh boy, I can't wait to go to Sedona. And the day I get back, we get to go aboard the boat and have the survey. And I know it's going to be perfect because this is the perfect boat. And Susan sent us a Wind Dancer. Thursday, the day before I leave for Sedona, we get a call from the broker. I have some bad news. They went to put the boat in the water and nothing's working. We said, what do you mean nothing's working? Well, the engine won't start because the control unit is fried and none of the instruments are working because the instruments are fried and the autopilot is fried and everything electrical is fried because the boat was struck by lightning. I found this out 1 hour before I had to do a live interview for the Shift Network online. In the old days, I would have probably fallen on the floor and kicked my feet like a kid and cried, right? Had a fit. But I learned from my guides to take a deep breath and say, isn't that interesting? And that's exactly what I did. I did not let the disappointment overcome me. I said, I know this is our boat, and I know there's a reason. I don't know what it is. Ty said, it's going to be a good 2 months till they fix that. It's too much. We'd had a boat that was struck by lightning years ago, and it really does. It just ruins everything. But we didn't realize that these Genots, all the modern electronics are interconnected. So we delayed, and I was so disappointed to come back from Sedona to nothing. And with, what do they call it? Supply chain issues. Haven't we learned those 3 words now? Everybody knows the word, supply chain issues. The parts were delayed. I won't go into these details, but it dragged on. We finally rescheduled the survey, got all the pieces together, and they said, well, the parts didn't come in. We rescheduled 3 times, dragging this out for 6 weeks. While I was in Sedona, a friend gifted me a reading with a psychic. She was spot on about everything in my life. And I said, can I ask a question? It's funny, even when you're a psychic, you know, you don't get all the answers. I told her what was going on. And I said, for some reason, and this is key, everybody, I've been asking my daughter and my guides, what's up with this boat? What the heck, as Ben put in the email that went out. And the psychic got nothing. And I said, I'm getting no answers. And I get answers. I don't sense my daughter. I'm not getting answers. So all I'm doing is flowing because I know this is our boat. I'm just flowing. And the psychic tuned in and she said, that's all I get to, just keep flowing. So I remain calm, but patience is one of the things this soul came here to work on, right? I'm getting better, but it has been the longest 2 months waiting, and a huge lesson in non-attachment, right? Blessings every day for what we do have in our lives. If this boat weren't in our lives, does my life change? Not at all. I love my friends. I love my family. I'm so grateful for the connection. So a boat is a nice thing, but I was not going to let it get to me. So every time I felt that frustration, all these spiritual tools that we know come to play. Isn't this interesting? And yet, during the entire 6 weeks of delays, nothing from my guides. One psychic told me, it's just going to make the boat all the more special. It's like the coolest story. And it is, right? You know, my daughter who was struck by lightning sends us this perfect boat with the name Wind Dancer. And then it's struck by lightning. And it's going to be repaired and it's going to be the perfect boat. But the problem was they kept finding more problems. Well, finally, they thought it was fixed. And last Tuesday, we went to survey. Finally, everybody comes together. We're walking down the pier and I see a boat named Wind Dancer. And I went, wait, that's not the boat. That's not a Genot 44. Believe it or not, here's the boat Wind Dancer we're going to survey. And there's another Wind Dancer right behind it. There's no real meaning in this. It's just one of those, isn't that interesting moments. We got to talking to the owner of the second Wind Dancer. You ready? The guy's a retired Navy destroyer captain. So of course they do this thing, well, what ships did you serve on? And the guy said, I served on the Brinkley Bass in Vietnam. I looked at Ty, he looked at me, we burst out laughing because we've been together 26 years. And for 26 years, Ty has been telling a story about a funny, hilarious story about the time that his destroyer was tied up astern of the Brinkley Bass. And here's Wind Dancer with another wind dancer tied up astern of her. You can't make this stuff up. I just heard right now, it is important to the story because it shows we were supposed to be exactly there in that moment. So we went aboard the boat and right away I noticed it was filthy. It's been in the yard for 2 months. It's stained. I was hoping a good cleaning could help it, but all I could think was, why didn't the owner clean this? Why didn't the yard clean this? You're trying to sell a boat, you clean it up. And I found that interesting. And my guides just reminded me, I didn't tell you one of the most stunning links to this boat. When we found the owner's name, because we both signed a purchase agreement, Ty Googled the owner. You just do that these days, right? Oh, what does he do? Where's he from? He came up to me with his iPad in hand and his eyes really big. He said, Suzanne, the owner of Wind Dancer has a child across the veil. And are you ready for this? His child passed in an accident. The last communications he had with any living being were with officials at Marine Corps Air Station Cherry Point, where Susan died. If you can't see the connections and that we were supposed to be on that boat, there's just no denying it. So a little bit surprised to go aboard and it's filthy. The owner showed up later. The surveyor was there, and I'll make this really short. The things they fixed were not working. The technician was playing around on this little touch screen, trying to get the right things to come up. And I'm looking at Ty, who needs me to program most things on his iPad, whatever it is. And I'm thinking, he won't be able to use this. He can't use these modern electronics. And it was a disaster. Nothing's working. And I just kept thinking, what's up with this boat? I hope right now you're saying, wait, this is their boat. All the signs, right? The shafts of light, the location, the perfect boat, struck by lightning, the name, the son killed in the same place. So we went to do the sea trial. We get it in the water, we go underway. You have to test the engines. They go to test the sails to make sure that the sails are not torn. They go to pull the sails out. This is a modern type where they wrap around, they roll up inside the mast. It's really cool. And you pull it out, it's really cool until they jam halfway out. The big mainsail completely jammed, and the half of it that is out, flapping in this wild wind. I have been at sea when sails go nuts. It's one of the worst parts about sailing. And I just thought, I don't want this. And we flailed around, and I just sat back and I let the broker and the owner unjam it. And I just sat there and I thought, okay. Ty and I looked at each other. We shared a look, and I thought, I don't care what signs Susan sent. This is not our boat. And we got back in and we said, well, surveyor, you finished the survey. Let us know how it goes. We're going home now. We didn't tell them that we were rejecting the boat, but we walked down the boat and we went, reject. And I said, and Ty, you're too old to be messing with sails. It's the first time I've ever said you're too old to him. He looked at me and he looked really insulted, and he said, I resemble that remark. Because he agreed, both of us, we don't want to be messing with sails anymore. And I said, maybe we should be looking at a power boat, because the need, the desire to be on the water is still there. So now you're asking, well, what's this all about? I know I was, right? The perfect boat. You notice how you can't deny all the signs. I'm trying to relate this to all of you here, all right? So I said, let's just go back and look at power boats again. And I thought back to about 8 years ago, I did a vision board. What would be my dream boat, my dream house? And for me, it would be a big boat. They're called trawlers. They look kind of shippy. They look like little ships, a trawler, but they don't guzzle fuel. That's too expensive. They go slow, they're sturdy, but the best thing is some of them have a bridge like on a ship, a special place out of the main salon where you live. Most the little tugboat we were going to buy just has a wheel in the living area of the boat. That to me is not my tie. I want Captain Tie on a bridge. But those boats were usually too expensive. But I said, let's just look and see what trawlers are out there. He said, sure, go ahead and look. So I remembered the reading with Janet Nohavit. And she had said, Susan says you're going to have a bigger boat than the one you gave up for her. That one was 46. So I did a search for boats 46 to 50 feet. It couldn't be more than 50 feet because we now have a slip. We actually have a slip. We already got it in advance for Wind Dancer, and now we're boatless. But the slip is only 50 feet long, and the marina was strict. You cannot exceed the length of your slip. So my search was for boats 46 to 50 feet, because Susan said it had to be bigger than 46 and 50 feet. We're riding home from the survey an hour. I'm looking for boats, and my friends, for the first time in 2 months, I heard Susan giggling. She was back. She was back. I was like, okay, what's going on here? And suddenly I hear my guides and they're saying, continue with your search. So I searched and I found a few boats that looked kind of cool. Yeah, they looked pretty nice. We get home, I made a couple calls, and again I hear, look again. I looked and there was this boat. I said, oh my God, Ty, look at this boat. It's a 50-foot trawler. Look at that bridge. And it has a blue hull. My whole life, I've wanted a blue hull boat. They're just beautiful. 50-foot boat. It looked like a little ship. And the price was a little high, but it was within our range. I said, can I call? Should I call? Should I call? He says, call. The broker got back to us right away. I said, is this boat still available? Multiple times, broker said, no, it's gone, it's gone. He says, yeah, that boat's still available. And my very first question, why hasn't anyone bought it yet? Are you ready? Well, the owner just reduced the price. The owner reduced the price 2 brackets from where I was looking. I never would have looked in the price bracket this boat was in, but he had just reduced it right when the survey failed for Wind Dancer, right? So how did this go next? We said to him, look, it says it's a 50-footer. Can you confirm it is 50 feet? Because our slip will only hold a 50-foot boat. He says, look, I've been aboard this boat. I know this boat. It's a one-owner boat. It's 19 years old, but very well maintained. I know it's 50 feet, but let me get the design drawing. So we're all excited. We're all excited. And he calls us back right before we're ready to go to bed. He says, I have bad news. It's actually 54 feet with the anchor sprit and the swim platform. I absolutely felt crushed. Attachment disorder, right? I thought, no, this is supposed to be our boat. And I heard, notice in the whole process with Wind Dancer, I never heard my guides, trust the process. So we went to bed and I knew to trust. The next morning in meditation, I sit down because we're going to, we're just going to go measure the slip. The guide said, Wind Dancer had to keep you going. There had to be a catastrophic event so that you would wait until your perfect boat became available. You will measure the slip and it will fit. Now, I couldn't believe this because I pulled out the maps from the marina and they're 50-foot slips. We get the tape measure, but I'm trusting. We go to the marina. We measured 55 feet. 55 feet. So now we're leaving for our summer tour in the RV at the end of this month. I know how long it takes to line up surveyors, everybody. This is last Thursday. Can you imagine what nerve it took us to call surveyors and say, can you meet us in Maryland on Monday? We need a survey Monday. This is last Thursday. And can the owner get there Monday? And oh, by the way, this is a powerboat, so we need an additional engine surveyor on Monday. And we need the yard to be able to pull the boat on Monday. Do you know, I knew it would come together. Every single piece of the puzzle came together. We got in our bus, drove 2 days to Maryland, and did the survey yesterday. She passed with flying colors. We said to the surveyor later, how could you have been available on Monday with such short notice? He said, you know, it's just the weirdest thing. I'm booked a month out. I don't know. I just had a free day. Can you all see this coming together? This is Susan saying, you gave up, Dad, you gave this up to honor me and to help others. It's your time now. It's so beautiful. I'll get to the lessons in just a minute here, but I felt Susan. The guides are talking like crazy. I mean, they talked me through the bridge tunnel with the bus, right? In their back. But I got choked up repeatedly yesterday. Susan's presence was so clear. The love was so present. And so she's going to be ours. And I wanted to show you a picture. And I want to tell all of you, I am not giving up this work. This boat, this is modern day now. 11 years ago, we didn't have internet on the water. And I'll be able to take the internet. I'll be able to do readings. I'll find lovely friends ashore wherever we are if we're cruising, and use your house to do webinars. But your dreams can come true when they're aligned with a higher mission. So let me share the screen. I have to show you a picture of Captain Ty that just warms my heart so much. Let's see if I can get this to work. No, that's not going to work. Where we are on Wind Dancer. Wind Dancer was meant to be, but just not to, the whole thing was meant to be, but just not ours. Let me see. How do I get that? Oh, here we go. We go here and we go here. Give me a sec. Here we go. All right. By the way, this next slide reminds me, yesterday we get back from the survey, and here's an email from a woman out of the blue. Suzanne, I'm reaching out to let you know that your book, It's Your Boat Too, just fell into my hands. I have actually written 2 boating books. I haven't heard of anybody reading my book about boating in so long. And the day that the new boat we decide is going to be ours, somebody writes to me about reading my book about boating. I just thought that was a lovely God wink. So here are the 2 of us. Look at Captain Ty on the bridge of that boat, and there's a little windblown Suzanne on the bridge of the boat. This is what I mean by a bridge. It's not just a wheel and a salon. This little trawler has a pilot house, a wheelhouse. And so, I mean, I don't think I've felt that joy. You can see it on Ty's face in years. I just could have cried all day long yesterday. And I will show you the boat, and we've decided on a name, and I know you will all agree it's perfect. The boat, by the way, the name has to be changed because it's named after the owner's ex-wife. So that just certainly will not do, right? But here she is, and we are naming her Gratitude. Isn't she beautiful? She's a little ship. And so we thank Susan for the boat with so much gratitude. One more little story before I get to the lessons for all of this in this story. Took my breath away. We looked at each other, we shook the surveyor's hands, the owner's hand. We said, we'll see you soon when we come to take possession. I'm not kidding you. We got in the car, plugged in my phone to get the map to get us back to the campground. For the first time in over a year since I've heard it, from somewhere deep in my phone, the song that came on the speakers was And She Dances. I'm gonna cry. It's magic. It's absolutely magic. how our loved ones pull out all the stops, right? So the lessons for all of us, I have notes, I don't need notes, right? It's trust that your loved ones know your dreams. Trust that they will pull out all the stops. They'll leave you signs. The biggest lesson for me is when your guides stop talking, there's a reason. Now, you have to first be talking to your guides. So this doesn't count if you say, well, I've never heard from my guides. This is why it's so important to establish a relationship with your team. They will guide you moment by moment. And when there's a reason for you to just flow, they step back. They're still here, but they'll show up. They showed up in little signs along the way. But this was a lesson in trust. How many of you start hitting a wall and you know you're just not supposed to do something? We have learned that lesson, and this is a huge one. And Bev and Lynette know it. If you're hitting a wall, there's a reason. It doesn't mean immediately change course. You like that nautical term? Don't change course. Stop and tune in. In this case, I was stopping every day while we kept rescheduling the survey and while things are still broken and we're getting disappointed. Are we supposed to give up the idea of the boat? Are we supposed to look at another sailboat? If we had given up at that point, we would have looked at another sailboat. We might have even bought another sailboat. What a disaster that would have been, and we would have missed gratitude. So it's a moment by moment flowing, trusting, listening. Watch. When you're so attached to the outcome that you make decisions that you know aren't right, that you make the ultimate decision. Attachment, you know you're attached when you kick and scream like a kid and cry, right? You know you're attached when your disappointment lasts, when you can't even find the ability to step back and say, isn't this interesting? That phrase will take you to neutral. It allows you to stop and ask your guides, what do I do here? Why is whatever is happening to you happening in this moment, right? So let me look at my list because I don't want to forget any here. Look at this. I didn't need all these notes. I just didn't want to forget any of the magical moments. That song coming on the radio, icing on the cake. Gosh. So watch for signs. The signs, when you know they're real signs, there are two elements to them. They're timely. The timing you can't deny, and they're meaningful. I hope that in the story I just told, you can't miss the meaning, right? And the timing. Then learn to connect all the dots. See how one thing leads to another, how you can't miss that Spirit's doing their best to guide you, but they can't give you all the answers. They can't give you the end result. That's our goal, to learn to trust, to flow, to tune in, to ask, to listen to your gut, to not make rash decisions, tuning in moment by moment. And again, if you don't hear anything, trust there's a reason. Okay. Practice always the attitude of what I call, and I've taught in these monthly connections, wouldn't it be amazing? So instead of, oh, I have to have a trawler for Captain Ty. No, I didn't know if that was what this was all about as we were looking at boats. But wouldn't it be amazing if this beautiful blue hull boat with it looks like a little ship that's just the right size comes to pass? Wouldn't it be amazing is a beautiful manifestation tool. So write that one down and practice it. Wouldn't it be amazing if I get my dream home? Wouldn't it be amazing if I get a job that really fulfills and satisfies me? When you open it up to wouldn't it be amazing without having to have all the details, remember, the devil's in the details. When you open it up to wouldn't it be amazing, trust me, Your guides and loved ones know what's in your best interest. I never dreamed, oh, right. There's another little piece. I never dreamed we'd have a boat like this. It's so far out of the realm of possibility. I can't believe the guy lowered the price to brackets. Well, he did because he was guided to. The broker said he wasn't going to sell it to anybody who wouldn't treat it as well as he did. But are you ready for this? The brand of the boat is a cherubini. It means in Italian, cherubs. What have I bought 8 of in the last 2 months? Little cherub statues, having no idea. Cherubini is a maker of some of the most gorgeous classic sailboats in history, built right in New Jersey, believe it or not, in the United States. We had no idea they even made power boats. We never would have looked at it when it was that expensive. The other thing is, if the broker had known it was 54 feet, he would have put that in the listing. We would have immediately dismissed it and not bought it, not even asked about it. But instead, it unfolded as it did. So practice, wouldn't it be amazing, instead of it has to unfold this way? Because spirit knows what's amazing for you far more than even your own dreams. I want you to live with a miracle mindset. This is an amazing story I've shared, and I hesitated to even show you a picture of it because I just want you to appreciate that miracles happen when you trust the process. And we all deserve miracles, don't we? Align with love and be the presence of love, and the universe will fall over backwards to help you. Okay? That's how it works. Pay attention to your thoughts and the signs they give, and remain in a state of gratitude. I had said to Ty, name, when we get a boat, you should name it this time. And he said, okay, I will. And then I said, do you have a name for the boat? And he said, not yet, not yet. And suddenly it was just given to me. And I said, Ty, I have the perfect name. And he said, what? And I said, gratitude. You should have seen the look on his face. He just melted. He just went, oh, I have such gratitude for you and our babies. That's our dog. He calls them the dogs are the babies. I have such gratitude for you and our babies and our life, and for Susan. See, the man has such a soft side. He can be, very much the Navy captain, but it's perfect. And it's a clue to life, my friends. Gratitude brings you into alignment with the soul faster than anything. We can think about love, align with love, but we as humans all have different ideas of what love is, right? So remain in a state of grateful for whatever you have in your life. I wish abundance for everyone, that you can have your dreams, but the real abundance is learning these lessons, however that plays out for all of you. So I'm tuning into my team right now because that went on a long time. And I'm trying to see what the best way to go with this is. They say we will do the group healing because it is so important for all of us. So hopefully you've joined me for the past couple of times. Those of you who are new, I'm not going to go into the big preamble about it. What I'd like us to do is become silent. I'll guide you into it. And this intention that we set is not for you to be healed. The intention is that the power of source, of God, will flow through you and heal others in this group and our world. And by taking the focus off ourselves and aiming to heal others, we are also healed. So as we become silent for a few minutes together, as random thoughts drift into your mind, notice them, let them drift through, and go back to simply holding the intention that healing energy is flowing through you and out to all of us and everyone connected to us, which is the whole world. Okay? And as we go into the silence for a few minutes, I'm also asking Sanaya to step in completely and give us all a message through me. And I have no idea what that is, but I look forward to them sharing just what we all need. So would you join me now and close your eyes? Take a nice relaxing breath. Imagine the life force flowing through you from above and anchoring you into the world, the center of the world, grounding you in the center of the earth. Take another nice, relaxing, refreshing breath. And bring to mind what you are most grateful for in this moment to bring you into a state of alignment with the soul and with source. And now set aside your identification with just your story and shift to soul awareness, just with intention. Here you are, aware of being a much less limited version than the story of you. As souls, we come together now and channel healing energy to everyone in this group and everyone connected to us. Please allow that energy to flow now. Good evening. And we wish to tell you that could you see the energy that is flowing through you now as you channel the life force for others, you would see that indeed it does turn up and radiate outwards with no end in sight. You have the power to heal others and heal yourselves. And it begins with, as you are guided, setting aside the self-identification with self as the limited version of you. If you take nothing more from this evening, may it be that you are like the nested dolls with selves within selves, and ultimately there is only one self, the one greater awareness that knows only the state of being. And so you become busy in your lives, doing and doing and doing. But if you would pause frequently and simply be, you would find that in the moments of doing, you are far more guided. You have heard much this evening about the presence of guides. Guides are also direct expressions of the one self. They do not have all of the answers, but they do have awareness of the role you are playing from a higher level. You may consider them as stage directors. And would you not turn to the director who has the script in front of them? We are not saying that your life is perfectly scripted out. My friends, it is much more like improvisation, where you go moment by moment acting upon what came before, and you never know what lines are going to come out of the other actors' mouths. But in each example, you say yes, and now the next line comes out. It is in the human nature to say no and to resist. But what would happen if you say yes? It does not mean that you agree with what is unfolding before you. It only means I am acknowledging this is reality now. To rebel against what is causes suffering. We know that many of you are suffering, and for good reason in your human roles. There are great challenges you face. The passing of a loved one is one of the greatest. But to deny that this is your reality causes suffering. In this improvisational role that you play, if you can learn to say, yes, this is reality, and with my guide's help, I choose to see differently. I choose to now move in concert with the stage directors and envision the greatest possible future, one filled with healing and love. And wouldn't it be amazing to live this way? We know that it is late, that you have learned much this evening that has snagged your attention. May you learn to work with your guides from what you have learned, what has caught your attention this evening, and ask, guide me to manifesting what is in my highest good. Until now, I thought I knew what that is, but wouldn't it be amazing to have something even greater unfold? I trust you to guide me. I trust Source implicitly. Show me how we are all connected. Allow me to flow and to trust. Allow me to know it is true what you so often tell us. You are so very loved. And so it is. It is our great pleasure to talk with you now. We hope that you all will join us as a group at the end of this month, as you have been told. Yes, we will discuss those who decide to leave this earthly experience early. We will tell you in advance, there is no judgment, there is no punishment, but we will discuss this with you and more. Life is to be savored, whether it is in a body or wherever you find yourselves. Out of a body, there is only here. There is only consciousness. All is connected. And where there is no separation, you may call this love. We love you all. It can be no other way. We return you now to the stage. I think I may have had a couple of other little things I was going to share with you this evening, but the guidance is very clear as I was coming out of that. It's the perfect way to end this evening, a sacred note, celebrating each other, celebrating healing, celebrating our connection, which is love, divine love. I hope that these sessions help you to feel that, to experience it. We can talk about it, but there's nothing like the experience of it. I'm sending mine to all of you, to Bev and Lynette for helping us this evening, to my hostess here, and this evening, to all of you. I could feel your love this evening. I'll catch up with anything we didn't cover next month, but I love you all so much, and may you experience so many blessings in your life. It begins with gratitude. Good night, everybody.